Jantradanob.
Well, as they say, promises are often made to be broken, but hopes are rather hard to kill. The hope lives on beyond the corpse of the promise, beyond any rhyme or reason, and beyond the harsh realities of the world. Good evening, and welcome to yet another story session with Jantradanob. This evening, we present to you an adaptation of Premendra Mitra's Telenapota Abishkar, voiced by Shiladitya Sarkar as Aranyok, Snehangshi Adhikary as Jamini, Tanay Thakur as Moni, Soumyajit Ganguly as Chonchol, and Soham Sengupta as Mashima. Graphics are presented by Ridhi Chakraborty and sound design is by Amartya. This evening we present to you Ethereal, written and directed by Pritha Mukhopadhyay.
Tuesday, was it? Or Saturday, maybe? No, Tuesday. Yes. An exhaustive, tiresome, and prolonged Tuesday. I had been infected with an addiction to countless cups of coffee, caused like dark circles, insomnia, and a terrible writer's block. My frustration was reaching new levels when suddenly the cell phone lying on the study buzzed and took my mind off it. Hello?
How is life, old friend? What is to be served next? Comedy or suspense?
This time, I'm trying to be a little more ambitious. How about a romance?
Whoa, says the guy who has been shying away from girls since puberty. I'm afraid you might just make the pigs fly.
I know. This is exactly why I've been wrecking my head over a new plot. But it is as if my brain has shut its doors and gone on an extensive holiday. It just won't comply. Well, can't blame it much, can I? Writing romance without real life inspiration is tough, isn't it?
Of course, my friend. God alone knows how our endless attempts to entice you into a fling had kept failing until we stopped. Nevertheless, life is still young, mate, and it's never too late to find an inspiration. Make yourself free and pack your bags. Let's go inspiration hunting.
Well, that was the cue. It's hard to keep a vagabond like myself away from adventures for too long. Just like a bee attracted to a flower, we always find a way. Thus, the journey began, as if into a dream. A non-AC, overloaded local bus became our first medium of transport that dropped us in the middle of nowhere and disappeared into the horizon. The bus was succeeded by nothing more than a bullock cart. If you think this is surreal, then let me warn you, it's just the beginning.
Unbelievable. Is this our ride?
Yes, this is the only way to travel here. Don't make a fuss. It's either this or you may well spend the night in the middle of nowhere for the next bus arrives not before tomorrow morning. And the menacing wilderness around can make sure you don't live to see the sunrise.
The three of us clambered in and adjusted our bodies to take up every inch of space that was available, and the vehicle began to roll at a snail's pace. We sat in awkward positions and waited eagerly for this arduous journey to end. The car took us through the dense woods and what appeared to be ruins of ancient civilizations before coming to a halt. Getting out of it, we found ourselves face to face with a mansion. A withered, desolated mansion stood across us, as if proof of a forgotten land.
So friends, here we are. So much for inspiration, huh?
I thought he was looking for some romance. What's with the haunted house?
You could have romance within horror.
I'm telling you beforehand, I don't know. I'll not read your book if your heroine is a witch.
Moving into the house, the spookiness was far too pronounced to be missed. A cloud of bats escaped out as we entered our room, leaving behind a stench of rotting rats. The walls looked brittle and covered in webs, and not a single furniture was to be spotted.
Where have you brought us, Moni? This is a barren land. There's hardly a soul around. There's no network, no electricity, and oof! These mosquitoes have mandibles made of iron. I think, I think I'll die of malaria.
Soon, Boni and Chonchol gave up on their squabble and dozed off, while I remained enchanted by this relic of a house. Every nook and corner of this enormous mansion, in its state of decay, encouraged my mind to build up stories from its past. And I didn't hold back. Somehow, I resisted my urge to venture out to the terrace and contented myself with the strolls I took off the first floor and the balcony across our room. It was darker than darkness. An owl could be heard from time to time alongside the constant buzzing of the crickets. A torch in hand, I took my errands and finally came to rest by the balcony. The moon was a full, and standing under it, an interesting plot was making its way into my mind. I lit a cigarette and stood there in silence for an eternity, carving out my storyline until my thought process was interrupted by an incongruous movement. A glimmer of light appeared from a window situated in the other part of the house. It was right across the balcony. Are we not alone here then? I thought to myself, my eyes still fixed on the window. Ragdoll curtains obstructed my view to examine inside the window. Then, a shadow appeared behind it. A shadow of a woman. Was I dreaming? Who could she be? Why is she here in this land of the dead? Another thought quickly crossed my mind. Could she make from a heroine?
Oh, I hate waking up. Couldn't sleep properly last night. These mosquitoes are too much. Of all places, this is where you had to bring us. The entire population of the village has been sacrificed to goddess Malaria. If I do get away from here alive and unaffected, I'll give up smoking, I swear.
It's probably your sweet blood the poor mosquitoes can't resist. Hey, what are you staring at?
Nothing. Just admiring the beauty of the morning sky. It's so peaceful. Tolling these corridors last night, who would have thought that the morning in this land of the dead can be so beautiful and full of life?
Yes, it is.
So much about haunting the corridor, Sir Arthur. How far did you go with the story?
Good question. Yes, the atmosphere sure it runs sparks down my brain cells. And thanks to my insomnia, I could scribble most of it down till dawn.
That sounds good.
And what about the heroine?
Yes, she is also there. Now, if you'll please excuse me, I need some privacy to scribble away. The weather was stormy, just the kind I like. The sky was a shade of grey, cool currents rustled the leaves of the trees and tousled my hair. I sat under the banyan tree by the backyard, lost in my story, when suddenly I was faced with a pleasant distraction. It was a voice, a female voice humming a folk melody. I turned my head to find a girl, probably in her late 20s, picking mangoes into a traditional jhuri. Instantly, the voice of an old man resounded inside my head. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary hide and glass, weeping and singing by herself. Stop here, gently touches. This I must have murmured out loud, for the girl stopped her work to look up at me. She had beautiful dark eyes, hooded with heavy lashes. She eyed me suspiciously, then looked away. She then continued her work until she had collected enough, but had stopped humming, probably alarmed by my presence. She picked up the jewelry and was about to leave, but stopped and turned back. She looked straight at me. Only then did I realize that I had almost been ogling her like a fool. God knows what she must be thinking. I quickly looked away.
I believe this belongs to you.
I looked up with slight embarrassment and curiosity. She was holding out a pen. My pen, my Parker. Oh, yes, thank you. It must have fallen down from the bundle. I held up my bundle of pens to show her. She handed me the pen, gently smiled, and walked away. I watched her until she disappeared behind the huge, rust laden iron gates of the mansion. The soft grumble from inside my belly reminded me that it was nearly lunchtime. I tucked my pens nicely inside my bag and marched into the house.
There you are. I was just about to go looking for you. Chalo, lunch is ready.
I have cooked the curry. Just smell the aroma. It's so satisfying.
You guys did it without me? Could have called me, na. I would have loved to help.
Huh? No. You concentrate on your story only. Huh? We have already had the privilege of tasting the delicious food that you cook.
Okay, fine. Laugh away. The lunch was spread and we sat down to eat. Amidst all the chit chat, abruptly, I threw a question towards Moni. Acha, who else lives here? I encountered a girl while in the backyard.
Who? Oh, that must have been Jamini. She's my cousin, well, distant cousin, so to say. Yes, she lives here with her mother. Over there, in that part of the house.
He pointed in the direction where the nocturnal silhouette from last night had made an appearance. That explains.
Why? Are you planning to picture her as your heroine?
Haven't thought about that, but you definitely need to stop obsessing with my heroine. Just then, Jamini entered with a large plate filled with mangoes sliced into pieces.
Here, Jamini. We were just talking about you. What have you brought us?
She placed the tray along with the other, now empty vessels.
Mangoes, Monida. They grow in our backyard.
Lovely. That should complete our meal. Serve it for us, will you?
Jamini served us the mangoes and stood in one corner. After we finished, Jamini called out with some hesitation.
Monida, if you could just come here for a minute.
What is it? Niranjan again.
Jamini looked down and nodded.
Please, just come and meet her once. I beg of you.
Okay. You go. I'm coming.
Moni followed her behind the doors. Consequently, we became audience to a heated conversation. After a while, he returned flushed and in anguish. I couldn't help but ask, "Hey, what happened? You look worried?"
Arey, don't ask. It's her mother. She's old and sick. Sick could be an understatement. She's suffering from acute Parkinson, and to add to that, 2 years ago she lost her vision. She has no purpose to stay alive except for this Jamini. She wants to marry her off. 5 years ago, she made an alliance with her long lost friend son Niranjan. But then, who would want to marry a destitute maiden? Poor Jamini, she has no money, not the looks to die for. Niranjan could not refuse her mother's request considering her misery, but nor could he marry her. So he chose to flee to the city and start a new life. He never came back, but the coffin dodger still expects him to return and free her from this life. She is hopefully stubborn.
Several minutes passed, and we stood in silence. Then I spoke up. Does Jamini know about Niranjan? His new life?
Yes, of course she does. But who will explain this to Mashima? Given her condition, you never know. She might as well die of shock. Now, to make matters worse, she has sensed us in the house and assumed that Niranjan has returned, and ever since has been pestering Jamini to get him to meet her. Only if she had her eyes, we could at least show her that Niranjan is not here. Neither is she ready to believe otherwise. I guess now it's up to me to try and explain.
Silence followed again. Moni heaved a sigh and turned to leave, and before I knew, the words were out of my mouth. Can I come with you? I could sense the confusion and surprise on Moni's face.
Y- You want to meet that dying soul?
Yes, I mean, if you don't mind, of course.
No, no, why would I mind? Alright, come along.
Jamini escorted us to a small, shabby room on the ground floor. It was pitch dark inside. My pupils took some time to adjust to the dimness, and only then could I discern the outline of an extremely frail, tiny, almost skeletal structure in a semi-faller's position on the ground by one corner of the room. She was evidently bedridden and required a constant attendant, which I comprehend was sufficed by Jamini. The moment she heard our footsteps, her head turned in our direction. A very weak and quivering murmur fell out of her mouth.
Niranjan, is it you, Niranjan? What took you so long, Niranjan? I have been waiting for so long.
Modi was just about to say something when I cut him short. Yes, Mashima, it's me. I'm just here. I could feel the tension in the room. Jamini, who was standing shyly in one corner, looked up entirely at a loss. Moni stared at me, awestruck.
I knew he would come. See, Yamini, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you that he would come? You have no idea what pain you have relieved me of. Don't I know what a burden am I to this poor girl? But she never complains. I would have died sooner, but it is a future that has been keeping me in this world. Now that you have come, she will be in good hands, and I can rest in peace. You will take her, won't you, Niranjan?
Yes, Mashima. I promise.
That's all I wanted to hear. I have been waiting so long.
Can I talk to you for a moment?
Modi dragged me outside, beyond the audible range of either of the ladies, and Jonchal joined us.
What are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Are you thinking of marrying Jamini? She hasn't a penny and has no future and will always be a burden on you. She's a hapless girl and is meant to be that way. As a friend, it is incumbent upon me to prevent you from falling into such a trap. Or I shall be blamed for ruining your life.
There are countless Jaminis out there who get sucked into destitution every day. So if I can save one, then why not? And what have I to lose? Given the diffident disgrace of a man that I am, Jamini probably is the best partner life can bestow upon me. In the meantime, you guys might actually get the privilege of dining at my wedding.
Now I can barely argue with an author's philosophy. You people have weird thought process. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just think it through. There is no rush.
The bullock cart arrived, its bells chiming in symphony. It was time to depart. I packed what little I had brought with myself, except for my Parker. Jamini shut the windows, closed the balcony, and locked the doors after us. She hadn't even looked my way ever since the episode in the dark room. Chonchol and Moni went to smoke near the pond. I sat by the stairs listening to the saved collection of Rafi and myself. A shadow appeared behind me on the ground near my foot. I turned and looked up. It was Jamini.
I will ever be indebted to you for what you said and did back then. My mother is ill and she will die soon, I know. All I want is for her to sleep in peace and be comforted that I'm fine. Your words have taken care of that, and I can want nothing more. If you do not wish to take me, I understand, and I'm not going to push you into it.
She kept her face down as she spoke. I heard her out silently. She then brought out my Parker from within the drapes of her sari.
I think you are forgetting something.
No, I'm reminding myself that I have to come back. She looked up at me. Her eyes, as mesmerizing as ever, had a hint of relief. Moni and Chonchol had returned and called me to board the cart. I took her leave with a smile and climbed aboard. As the wagon took off in a languid pace, my thoughts wandered off to a girl, expecting my return. It hadn't been a week since we came back to Kolkata that a nationwide lockdown was announced in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. The entire country went into house arrest. I had no means to inquire about what happened to Jamini. She had no tele or cell and lives in a deserted village. Seems odd in today's day and age. As if just a dream. Now it's almost a year. I couldn't make time to go visit her. I wonder how she is doing. Deep, deep inside, I wonder if she's alive. When this all ends, perhaps I will go back. Perhaps she will still be waiting for Niranjan.
Thus, we conclude our production for today, Ethereal. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you wish to be a part of our team Jantradanob, then do get in touch through our Facebook page. Thank you and good night.